Welcome, everyone. My name is Maxim, and I'm legal support expert here at Howley. And today we're going to discuss a lease termination letter in the United States. That's a document that might seem simple on the surface, still, it plays a powerful role in the United States land law, tenant law. This letter is used by either landlords or tenants to legally end a rental relationship when it is used. It may again can apply when a fixed term lease naturally expires or when either party wishes to terminate month to month tenancy by providing proper notice and so on and so forth. While the idea of telling someone that you're moving out or asking someone to leave might seem informal, in law it must be written timely and properly delivered. Otherwise, the termination may be invalid, leading to serious legal consequences. So, a lease termination letter as a document fulfills three main functions. The first is compliance. Many state laws mandate written notice before ending certain types of leases, particularly those that are periodic ones. The second is clarity. A signed and dated document avoids misunderstandings about when and why the lease is ending. And the third one is legal protection. Lease termination letter provides documentary proof of notice, which can be essential in court or deposit disputes. In short, this letter is not just a good practice, it's often a legal requirement. Lease termination is grounded in several legal doctrines, and as the procedure, the most important of these doctrines for it is the doctrine of freedom of the contract. This principle means that private parties are free to structure their agreements as they see fit, including how and when the lease may be terminated, so long as the arrangements do not violate mandatory laws or public policies. In the lease termination context, this allows, for example, to set custom notice periods for the parties, define valid grounds for early termination, e.g., job relocation, sale of property, agree on delivery methods or written format requirements. However, this freedom is not unlimited. Statutory protections override private agreements and there is a conflict between them. Therefore, contract terms must remain within the legal framework of landlord-tenant law. Other core principles include legal certainty, which means clear, fixed deadlines and procedures that promote stability and legal enforceability for lease termination letters. Administrative functionality. Timing rules allow both parties to coordinate move-outs, inspections, and future occupancy. And the third is protection of parties. Letter as a mean of notice ensures that neither side is taken by surprise or treated unfairly. While certain federal principles that govern legal lease termination law apply nationally, lease termination law is largely state-driven. On the federal level, the main acts that regulate lease termination notices are Fair Housing Act, Service Members Civil Relief Act, Violence Against Women Act, and sometimes HED regulations apply. All in all, as I said before, lease termination law is largely state-driven. Therefore, every state may define minimum notice periods for different lease types, acceptable delivery methods, content requirements for termination letters. For example, in California, a 30 to 60-day notice is required depending on how long the tenant had lived on the premises. In New York City, law imposes specific rules on regulated units, and in Chicago, tenants in certain buildings have enhanced rights to release renewal or compensation. All in all, detailed state-by-state legal knowledge is available in the Notion article, which I highly recommend to read before applying this material practically. On this slide, you can see main states that have specific legal regulations regarding lease termination letters in the United States. One thing I want to point on that this regulation is highly based on legal precedents and not on the material law. Main and really widespread question that arise arises from lease termination letter practice is that many people confuse lease termination letters and eviction notices. Why that and why so? Many people confuse these two, but they are legally and conceptually different. A lease termination letter is typically neutral. It ends the lease by mutual agreement, expiration, or valid notice. There's no accusation of wrongdoings. Uh, on the other side, an eviction notice, however, is adversarial. It alleges a lease violation, payment, illegal activity, etc., and often leads to litigation. Still, both are governed by the same landlord-tenant statutes in most states because both involve ending of the tenancy. Thus, they share similar rules around timing, delivery, and tenant rights. Despite their functional differences, these documents fall under the same regulatory umbrella because they both, first, affect property possession, the second, change legal relationships, and the third, can potentially lead to housing insecurity if mishandled. Legislature aims to establish uniform frameworks that protect the housing rights, outline due process, and clarify how legal possession is transferred back to the landlord. This unified regulation helps courts and tenants understand what's required for either type of notice to be valid. Although every state has its own statutes and legal precedents, a legally valid lease termination letter in the US generally includes the full names of both parties, the address of leased premises, the date of notice and the date of intended termination, a signature for the person giving notice, and a proof of proper delivery. It's usually by a certified mail, hand delivery, or another verifiable method. Including a reason for termination is optional. In most jurisdictions, still, it often helps to avoid disputes and prevent bad faith claims. Importantly, if these formalities are not followed, the notice may be deemed invalid and tenancy continues by law. While the law provides general structure, practice reveals common pitfalls. As you can see on this slide, there are references for court cases that are main legal precedents for regulating lease termination note letters throughout various states in the US. And also they pinpoint main problems and errors that are common when applying lease termination letters in the United States for lease endings. The first is incorrect timing. Notices are often sent too late or too early, invalidating the termination. The second is improper method of delivery. Notices are not delivered according to statute, and by that way are unenforceable. Vague or ambitious content in the lease termination letter. Poorly drafted letters cause confusion about the intent and date or parties that are involved. Violation of federal protections. For instance, terminating a lease due to a tenant's domestic violence status would violate the Violence Against Women Act, which we spoke about before. Deposit disputes. When timing is unclear or undocumented, landlords may withhold deposits, leading to litigation. And the last one is the refusal to vacate. If the notice is invalid or improperly delivered, tenants may lawfully remain and eviction would fail in court. Understanding these challenges helps to prevent mistakes that can cost time, money, and reputation for our customers. In summary, the lease termination letter is a deceptively simple yet powerful legal tool. Still, there are a lot of commonly arising questions regarding these documents that arise from the public. Here are a few examples. First one is, can a landlord reject a lease termination letter from a tenant? As you can see, the answer is no, not in the month lease if the tenant provides proper notice under the state law. But for a fixed term lease, termination typically requires mutual agreement or a legal reason. The second is, can I revoke a lease termination letter after sending it? Yes, but only if the one party has not yet relied on it, which means that there are no further legal actions based on the lease termination letter you've sent. The third is, can a lease termination letter be challenged in court? Yes, of course, it can be. We as lawyers do understand it still. For example, tenants may argue that the termination was discriminatory, retaliatory, or in violation of tenant protection laws, and so on and so forth. Is the letter still valid if it contains minor errors? In many jurisdictions, it is valid. If it contains minor errors, still that's the question for considering in the court, and the question of the court's thinking. Can a party change their mind after signing a mutual termination agreement? A mutual termination agreement can be withheld. It's a binding contract, so it's impossible, unfortunately. Can the law change a penalty if I terminate my early with notice? For fixed term leases, it's possible. Even with the letter, you may owe penalties or forfeit your deposit. There are other questions, but these were main that are most widespread in the legal field of legal termination letters. All in all, lease termination letter plays a vital role in ensuring orderly and legally sound endings to rental relationships. It must be first written, second timely, third clear, fourth delivered correctly, and fifth compliant with local law and also with federal. It is shaped by both contractual freedom and statutory boundaries, ensuring balance between autonomy and protection. Use properly lease termination letters. First, prevent an unnecessary litigation. Second, support housing market stability. And third, help landlords and tenants transition with confidence. While it may be just one page of the text, as in practice it is, in the eyes of the law, it's a page that matters greatly. Thank you for your attention. I hope that this lecture had been interesting and informative for you.